Reports over the weekend suggest that should the Qatar Investment Bank fail to purchase Manchester United this summer, they'll turn their attentions to London and buy West Ham United. Now, obviously, for them to turn their attentions and want to buy West Ham, that means they failed in their bid for Manchester United. And as it stands at Old Trafford, and I've tried to keep my eye on this and my finger on the pulse and see what's going on, because I'm genuinely interested, actually. I think the domino effect of Man United being sold this summer is massive for the Premier League, and it'll impact West Ham eventually, perhaps not immediately. I think the consequences for other clubs that are competing at the top of the Premier League, I think it might impact them a little bit more. But there's the domino effect. Eventually it filters its way through to impacting West Ham potentially. But the report suggests that it could be a massive one, in such that if it's Jim Ratcliffe that buys Man U, then perhaps the Qatar Investment Bank will turn their attentions to West Ham. Now, if you're a Man United fan, I would switch off now in case I say something slightly incorrect. But like I said, I've done my best to keep up to date with it all. So my understanding is at the end of April, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the 9.2 Foundation, which is headed up by Sheik Jassim, they put in their third and final bids for Man United. Now, this has had a little bit of a twist last week, in the sense that the 9.2 Foundation, which is with Sheik Jassim, they've put in a fourth bid worth 5.5 billion. That went in last week. Apparently they're going to wipe out Man United's 500 million debt as well. But the structure of the bids are slightly different too, which could play a big part as to which one gets accepted. The Glazers are expected to announce their preferred bid later this month. But it feels like it's dragging on a little bit now. As a neutral, it feels like it's taking its time, but also it's starting to feel like it's a way to come to a conclusion. And the reports from the weekend suggest that should it go the way of Jim Ratcliffe, then the Qatar Investment Bank may turn their attentions and try and buy West Ham United. Now, the structures of the bids at the minute, Jim Ratcliffe wants the majority shareholding, with the Glazers retaining a minority shareholding, although there will be put and call options in there so that they can get out at any time. It protects the Glazers essentially, but it also gives Ratcliffe, his company, the opportunity to buy the rest of the shares at a later price. So his bid's believed to be worth 5 billion. Now, the Sheiks want to buy the entire club, 100% takeover. They want everything, and their bid last week was for 5.5 billion. So we'll wait and see what goes on. But like I said, the reports then suggest that should it go the way of Ratcliffe, the investment bank may turn its attentions to West Ham United. Now, when these reports came out over the weekend, it was credited to The Sun. It was The Sun that was reporting it. And because West Ham had a game in that, I didn't really look into it that much. I just dismissed it. And a reason I dismissed it is because it was via The Sun. And I was a little bit naive to do that now that I've read the article properly. Because when I saw it, and it was that, Sheikh Jassim might look at buying West Ham via The Sun, I thought, yeah. Forgot The Sun had really good links to one of the... someone in the office at The Sun is just ringing up Sheik Jassim to get the latest on the proposed takeover at Man United, are they? So I just dismissed it straight away. I thought, no chance. But since then, I went and read The Sun's article. It has actually come through a Spanish media outlet. I don't know how you pronounce it. El Pais, P-A-I-S, that lot. So they're the ones that's running the story, and The Sun's just taking it and credited the quotes to them, but they've given us the English version of it, if you like, and they've ran with it, which is fine. That's what happens. That's what I do. I take something from The Sun and I run with it, and I give my opinion on it. So I'm just doing what they do. But originally, it came from a Spanish outlet who apparently does have one or two links to the Qatari side of things. So they might have that information from there. But when it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? So when this article comes out, which is very conveniently timed in the sense that, they're trying to force the Glazers into selling, they want to be the preferred bidder, and it comes out from their side, it's a bit, it's almost like an indirect threat, which is, you're not the only club that we're interested in. We've got backups. West Ham is our backup. And it makes sense to link us to West Ham. Why wouldn't it? We're cheaper. We're definitely obtainable. We're in London. There's a lot of talk that Sullivan could be selling up this summer as well. It ticks all the boxes. For what club would you want to be linked to in order for there to be a potential element of truth to you having a second choice club that you could go invest in should Man United not go with you? And I think it's almost a little bit of a warning to Man U, which is, our bid is worth 5.5 billion. How much will we have to pay for West Ham? Top end, 800 million. That's very, very top end. Well, we've got a lot of leftover money, let's put it that way. So when I saw the article, even when I read it, I just thought there's maybe something in it in regards to, it has actually come from a source, but I still don't believe there's anything in it in regards to them actually being serious to buy West Ham. It's just a game. It's just a game to try and force Man United into potentially selling the club to them. In my opinion, that's my feeling anyway. But since then, just to add more element of why this is rubbish, Ben Jacobs is a journalist. Now I've spoken to a couple of Manchester United fans that I know and said, "Oh, is Ben Jacobs is he reliable for Man United news or whatever?" And I got told that he is reliable for the takeover stuff. So since the Glazers put Man United up for sale November, between then and now, he's had his finger on the pulse. What he has reported in the past has come true as well. So I think he's got a lot of kudos with the Man United fan base in regards to his updates in relation to the proposed takeover at Man United, whether it's Ratcliffe or the 9-2 Foundation or the Glazers. He seems to have really good links there. His update was, well, pretty much that it's rubbish. He said that the 9-2 Foundation, which is headed by Sheik Jassim, that's what they're going through to purchase Manchester United, that they've had no discussions with West Ham. But not only that, they've never even discussed West Ham internally. West Ham are not even a discussion at the 9-2 Foundation. Nothing at all. Obviously, in the past, they've been linked to Tottenham as well, but apparently that's not really a discussion point at the minute. In fact, the club that's most likely for them to turn their attention to should they not get Man United is actually Malaga in Spain. So there you have it. That's what the report said, and that's what Ben Jacobs is saying, and you've got my opinion on it. I think it's a bit convenient. I think it's to put the pressure on the Glazers and say, hurry up, will you? We've made a bid last week and you've got to pick someone soon, so pick us, please. Thank you very much. And it's probably also to get the Man United fans worried. It's probably to worry the Man United fans, so they continue applying pressure on the Glazers to sell up. Now, in regards to the other side of it, which is the West Ham side, for quite some time now, maybe a month or two, I've been a little bit worried. Because I was hoping that this summer would be a summer of change for ownership, and I've been hoping that a long, long time. And we're talking years. We're talking years here. Probably since 2018, maybe. We moved into London Stadium. It wasn't very good. It was a bit crap. And since then, I've been I've had it now with this thought. I want them gone. But I knew summer 2023, nothing was going to happen between then and now because of the embarrassment clause. But that's gone now. That's gone. So this summer was always like the end of the rainbow for me, the pot of gold. At last, now you can sell it, you can have your massive profits, and off you go, and we can move on to someone else. But in the last few months, there's been very, very little talk, and I'm a bit concerned, not so much about the lack of talk, because when Kretinsky purchased his share in West Ham, that went from like nothing to buying West Ham very, very quick. His name came out, and I remember speaking to Matt Slater from The Athletic, because he was the one that revealed Kretinsky's name. He was the one that put Kretinsky's name in the public domain, and I remember doing the video with him, and it felt like a week later it was announced that he had actually purchased 27% of West Ham. It happened very, very quickly. I could have the timeline long, it was probably a bit longer, but it felt really quick from Kretinsky's name coming out to the press to him buying a chunk of West Ham. It felt quick. So it could change quickly as well. But then you look at, all this stuff that's been going on with Man United and stuff, that's very public and whatever, and I think a full takeover would possibly be a bit different. But regardless, even if you put the lack of talk to one side, things are happening at West Ham and someone's doing it. It has to be David Sullivan. I don't know who else it could be. I know we could look at Kretinsky, but I'm not convinced. And it's mainly around the director of football thing. Obviously, at the minute, we've got the manager situation, which I've become resigned. I think I've accepted that Moyes is going to be here next season. I'll be shocked if he goes this summer, whether it's walking out or getting sacked. I'll be surprised. Now, obviously, there's a change of ownership. I'll change my opinion. When you get new data, always reevaluate. One of the most important things in life, in my opinion, and it's one of the best things a person can have about them. So somebody to have the ability to change their mind, I think is a very powerful thing. I think it's a really good attribute to have. So if there's a change of ownership, change your mind. But as far as I'm concerned, should David Sullivan remain in charge, I think David Moyes will remain in charge next season. However, it's the bit in the middle, the director of football, because unlike this talk with Sheik Jassim buying West Ham, that's come from reliable sources, or who I consider to be reliable sources. You don't have to consider Sean Whetstone, the ex-West Ham employee, to be reliable for West Ham news. That's up to you. That's your opinion. My opinion is they're both really reliable. Sean put it out, it was backed up by X. Jacob Steinberg might have mentioned it as well. I could be wrong, but if he had, that's another box ticked anyway. But regardless, just with X and Sean, that's enough for me to believe that director of football is a thing that West Ham are after. And I'm not concerned about the lack of director of football at the minute. I think we're probably looking at someone that's at a club right now. There's 3 names linked. We mentioned them yesterday. We've got Mitchell, who's at Monaco, which we were always going to get linked to him. I was able to predict it 2 weeks ago, and I'm not in the know. I know nothing about stuff like that. But yeah, I was able to say we will be linked to Paul Mitchell. It just makes sense. And then we've got linked to the person at Brentford. I forgot his name already. Is it Tyler Lees? Is that his name? And then we've got Michael Edwards, which I think we can rule that one out, because if we were going to go get him, he'd be here by now, because he's currently unemployed, I believe. So the director of football seems to have a little bit of something about it. There's an integrity to that. And I'm expecting one to rock up. So who's employing him? Well, it's got to be David Sullivan, right? I think it could be influenced by Mark Noble, in the sense that Mark Noble said, well, hey, hang on, got a bit too much responsibility here. First of all, I'm new to the role, but also, second of all, there's a lot to manage here. I need help, so we need a director of football. But my point is, to bring in somebody in that position is a huge change for the football club, any football club. That is a massive appointment. And that's changing the infrastructure. I don't think you do that if you're intending on selling. I mean, Sullivan arguably is doing the right thing, which is carry on as if you are going to be in charge for the foreseeable until someone else comes along, puts a massive offer on your table. Then things can change. But the way that we're going about our plans, if you like, just makes me think that Sullivan isn't going anywhere this summer. And frustrates me, disappoints me, saddens me, whatever one of those phrases you want to use. So it's a merge of all of those, probably, because I had my hopes up that this would be the summer that he'd go, and I just don't think he is going anymore. So when I see this rumours come out, I struggle to get excited. First of all, because I think the potential buyers made up, well, he exists, but I don't think he's interested in West Ham. But second of all, I'm not sure Sullivan's in a hurry to sell up. Now, obviously, if somebody come along and was willing to pay up, I think he'd change his mind pretty quick, because Sullivan has always said it will take someone with next level money for him to sell. I'm not sure I believe him. I think as long as someone pays the money he wants, I think he'll sell to anybody. We've seen that at Birmingham City. Here's the money. Yes, thank you very much. And a handful of years later, the new owner was in jail for money laundering. So I don't think Sullivan cares too much about who he sells to, as long as they've got a little bit of that. But yeah, there you have it. I think my biggest, while I think the rumour's rubbish, I've not commented on the potential purchase of West Ham United by a Qatari Sheikh. I've left that out on purpose, because we did it ages ago when Nick from Clanton Booze came on. It was during the World Cup, and we spoke about it then. But also because it's it's a topic I don't know enough about. I do not know enough about human rights in Qatar. Right, I know that makes me look stupid, but I'm being honest. I didn't know about any of it until the World Cup. When the World Cup came around, that's when I learned a bit about it, but I still don't know enough about it in order to comment one way or another. Just the same with Saudi Arabia. Until they purchased Newcastle, I didn't really know enough about the human rights, or lack of, in Saudi Arabia until they came in for Newcastle. Then I started reading articles about it and whatever. So I don't know enough about Qatar. I'm not educated enough to really comment on it. It would make me uncomfortable, certainly. But that's why I've left it out, and also because I don't believe it. I think it's one of those topics that you could very easily get people arguing about as well, which is there'll be people that are very strong with human rights and say we cannot be owned by a club like this. I'll stop supporting West Ham, and I completely understand why they would. But then you've got people on the complete opposite side, which is nothing to do with me. I support West Ham, regardless of who owns the football club. And I also completely understand what they're saying. So it's a very difficult one. I think it's such an emotional topic, and people have such strong opinions on it one way or another. I think it's sort of like, it can get a bit spicy, if you like, in the comment section. And I don't know enough in order to moderate it, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm just gibbering on about. But yeah, the Qatari investment bank were linked to West Ham. Don't believe it for 1 second. And it's been quashed by Ben Jacobs, who apparently is really, really reliable for the takeover news at Manchester United. But my biggest concern actually is that I don't think David Sullivan's going anywhere this summer unless something drastically changes and someone comes in with big money. And for years I just thought and hoped that this was the summer he'd go. I don't think he is anymore. And this is a massive summer for West Ham, not just director of football, but potentially replacing Declan Rice, starting to get ready to replace David Moyes. Even if Moyes is here for next year, we still need a plan for the following summer. There's a lot of big decisions to be made at West Ham. This feels like a vital summer for us. We've had a warning sign. We've just avoided relegation. Now, the Conference League's fantastic. I cannot wait for it. But put that to one side for a minute. We were in a relegation zone until about 3 games to go. That is not a good season. That is a warning, which is, well, look at it right now. Leicester look like they're going down. They've won the FA Cup. They've won the Premier League. They're away to get relegated. There's enough warnings which says you cannot ever just relax in Premier League. I always say, I've said it since day one of doing YouTube with Gonzo, in football there's no such thing as standing still. You're either going forwards or you're going backwards. And it's up to you, and when I say you, I mean David Sullivan, it's up to David Sullivan as to which direction West Ham's going in. And that will be decided by the choices he makes. The only problem is I think he's going to be here to make them. Anyway, I'm going to disappear. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe to Hammer's Chat, and I'll be back tomorrow. I think it's a bit of a more, unless there's big news between now and then, I think it's more of a fun, light-hearted video tomorrow. So hopefully you can join me tomorrow, and you can join in the comment section as well. But until then, look after yourself, be happy, be lucky, and I'll see you in a bit.